All right, what's going on, guys? This is Rob. Welcome back to Geek Culture Explained, and welcome back to another episode of Hype Train, where we talk about the ending of episodes and wrap everything up with a theory. Now, here's a funny thing about the ending of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode number 3, right? Here's the ending. Here's the thing about this ending. There's not much there. I will say, like, there's the part of me that's a fan wants to believe that we're going to get Doom War. Like, a part of me just wants to believe that, right? Because, like, people in Wakanda, Latvia, which just sounds like Latveria, Dr. Doom invades Wakanda, steals a vibranium. Done. Like, I really, really want that. I don't think we're gonna get it. I think it'd be awesome to see Doom War, but I don't think we're gonna get it. What made Doom War so cool, for those of you guys who never read it, what made Doom War so cool was that Dr. Doom basically had to go to the Panther God Bast and then made an argument of like, he's gonna steal all the vibranium, he's gonna amplify his magical power, and then he's gonna rule the world as a dictator, but it would actually be a better place. And the Panther God's like, I get where you're coming from, and then allowed him to take all the vibranium. And like, Doom basically became God. It took like the entirety of the superhero community to bring him down, and the only way to stop him was that T'Challa had to basically render all the vibranium across the world inert, like basically remove the one thing that made vibranium valuable. So they were just giant hunks of rock. They were worthless. And initially it was believed that like Wakanda was going to lose all of its money, but like they had actually bought up a bunch of debt from different countries around the world. So like first world countries owed Wakanda money. And so they were basically guaranteed paychecks like for forever, right? The nation was always going to have money coming in. And so it was cool. It was a really cool story. I can almost guarantee we're not going to get that anytime soon. But the fan in me that wants to create outlandish theories wants it to be true. However, while there isn't a whole lot to go on with regards to the ending of this particular episode, in terms of what we saw during the episode itself, man, there's a lot. And here's the thing, right? The big question on everybody's mind is who's Power Broker, right? Like who is the Power Broker? Who's the one running the show? Who's the one that's like developing all these powers? I think Power Broker is a throwaway guy. I don't think Power Broker is important. I think that like there's something much bigger going on here, right? So a few things that I want to point out. One, I don't believe the Flag Smashers are important. I think that the girl is, and I think she's going to be important later on, and there'll be a reason for that. I think Baron Zemo is going to be important, but I don't think they're going to be the big reveal at the end of the show. And I don't think it's going to be Power Broker. I think it's the person Power Broker is working for. I think it's General Thunderbolt Ross. I think he's the one that's running everything. All right, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Here, crazy time, hype train. All right, here's the thing about this, right? Come on, y'all, choo-choo. Let's go for a ride on the hype train, y'all. Okay, here's the thing that I think is going on here. What do we know about General Thunderbolt Ross, right? Well, there's huge differences between Thunderbolt Ross and like Baron Zemo, right? We know that Baron Zemo, his family was killed in Sokovia. Baron Zemo just wants to get rid of superheroes. Done, right? Just like superheroes gotta go. But General Thunderbolt Ross is more pragmatic, right? He knows that superheroes have their place. If he didn't believe superheroes had their place, the Sokovia Accords wouldn't regulate superheroes. They would outlaw them, right? So like we know that like he's like, okay, the world needs superheroes, but there's got to be some kind of rules and regulations that they have to follow in order to be able to do their job. So there's huge differences between the two of these guys, right? So I think what the big reveal is going to be here is that the Power Broker was contacted and was basically hired by Thunderbolt Ross on behalf of the federal government. And why do that? Well, because what we know about Madrapore, right? If you've never read Marvel Comics, Madrapore is like the Mos Eisley of the Marvel Universe, right? You guys remember in Star Wars when like Obi-Wan Kenobi was hanging out with Luke Skywalker and he was like, Mos Eisley, you will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. That's Madrapore, man. Even in the comics, S.H.I.E.L.D., the whole 9 yards, they're like, yeah, man, we're not going to go there unless we have to. It's the south side of Chicago in the Marvel Universe, right? Like, you never go there alone. Like, it's it's a pretty rough spot to be in, right? Because there aren't really any rules there. You know, like if you're a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and you go into Madrapore, then you get whatever you get, right? I mean, if you're foolish enough to go in there on your own and you die, well, that's on your shoulders, right? Governments around the world give Madrapore a wide berth in terms of what they can do. And so because of that, like there's no better place to go to than that, right? Like if you are Thunderbolt Ross and you are basically trying to find a way to essentially recreate the super soldier serum, which I think is what he's trying to do, then hire somebody in Madrapore. It's never going to trace back to you, right? You just go through shell company, or aliases or whatever. You go through a guy who goes to the Power Broker and says, I've got a deal for you right now. The question is like, why bring in somebody like Wilfred Nagel, right? All right, here's the thing. Wilfred Nagel was a character who appeared in Truth, Red, White, and Black. It was basically the story of Isaiah Bradley in Marvel Comics. And the idea was that after Steve Rogers became Captain America, while he was fighting in Europe, the government wanted to create more. And so what they did is they snatched up 300 Black Americans, they took them to a fake military camp in Mississippi called Camp Cathcart, and then just started experimenting on them. everyone and just injecting them with different forms of the super soldier serum. Sometimes it was wholly different variations. Sometimes it was just huge amounts of the serum. Like all but 7 of these guys died. And then over the course of the story, the only one who survived the whole experience was Isaiah Bradley. We know Isaiah Bradley exists in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We know that he's part of the experiment that led to those variations of Captain America that exist out there. Now, I'm not saying Thunderbolt Ross was the one who experimented on Isaiah Bradley, but it wouldn't be that hard for Thunderbolt Ross to pick up the research that was done and then hand it over to somebody else and say, make a better version of this, right? We know that because Wilfred Nagel in the comics was the one who was experimenting on all of those guys in Camp Cathcart, right? So that's how you get Wilfred Nagel from the comics in the MCU. He was basically the guy who was originally there when Abraham Erskine created the super soldier serum, and he was the best person to hire to try to recreate it. Thunderbolt Ross is trying to recreate the super soldier serum in order to create more super soldiers. Why? 1, because I think that's going to go into the launch of Weapons Plus, but 2, I think he's basically creating his own Mighty Avengers team, but he's going to call them the Thunderbolts. Why? Okay, in Marvel Comics, you got the Civil War event, right? Superhero regulation, everything pops off, Captain America versus Iron Man for the heavyweight championship of the world and the right to be a superhero. And so because of that, what you had is you basically had like Tony Stark and you had Reed Richards and you had Hank Pym Ant-Man. Bad guys won. And so you got the Mighty Avengers, which were basically a secondary Avengers team that served the purpose of rounding up people who hadn't registered and then taking them to a prison until they did choose to register. I think that's what he's going to do, right? I think that Thunderbolt Ross at the end of all this, 1, he's creating the super soldier serum. 2, I don't know whether or not it'll be successful. I wouldn't be surprised if it just gets destroyed in some form or fashion. And then 3, I think that if it does survive, he's going to take a final dose of it. Crazy idea here. He might become the Red Hulk. I don't think that's going to happen, but it'd be cool if it did. But he's basically going to snatch up Baron Zemo, right? Baron Zemo is probably going to end up back in jail. And it's going to be one of those post-credit scenes like you saw when Iron Man was creating the Avengers and he was going around and visiting different people. I think you're going to have that, right? But like he's going to go visit, like Thunderbolt Ross is going to go see Baron Zemo and say, hey, like, you know, we're kind of on the same page here. You're a little more extreme than me, but like, you're going to come work for me, right? And basically conscripts him into the Thunderbolts. I think the girl who's the leader of the Flag Smashers is going to become a Thunderbolt. I think that Abomination is going to come back because we know he's still alive. The leader, we know he's still alive, right? Those guys from the original Incredible Hulk movie with Edward Norton, they're still there, right? They still exist. I think they're all going to be brought into the Thunderbolts. And the whole purpose behind this team is going to serve the basis of we can't rely on conventional military tactics to confront superheroes. But given everything that's happened, Sokovia, Civil War, the events of Infinity War, half the life in the universe being blinked out of existence, the great big huge battle that we saw in at the end of Avengers Endgame, we cannot allow superheroes to just continue to run unchecked. But the Sokovia Accords, as they're made, don't work. So I'm going to run a Black Ops team. Like they're literally going to be a covert Black Ops wet work team that the government has the ability to just disavow. So think like the superhero version of Mission Impossible. And like when things pop off, like they send in the Thunderbolts and the Thunderbolts just round people up. That's what it's going to be, right? That's how it's going to function. But I think the big reveal behind all this, I think Power Broker is going to be a throwaway guy. And I think the big reveal behind all of this is Thunderbolt Ross is the one that initiated all of this stuff, right? He's basically the big guy behind the scenes pulling the strings. I think it's going to be him. But in any event, let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. This is a great episode of Hype Train, and I will catch you all later. Peace.